Hey, hope you're doing well. Andy here from Drive Steady, and today I'm reviewing this, an Audi A4 45 S-Line, the middle ground between the base A4 and the S4. So in this review, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the interior, the exterior, some of the mechanical bits like engine, horsepower, torque, and fuel economy, and of course, taking it for a quick drive. So with that, let's get started with this review of the Audi A4. Starting off the review by looking at styling, and this A4 generation has been out for a couple years now, so it's not anything magical or new, but Audi did give it a refresh recently, and I think it looks really good. And since this example is equipped with the top-of-the-line Prestige package, it's got the cool-looking Matrix LED headlights. It's also got the black optics package with the 19-inch gray wheels, which both provide a wonderful, wonderful contrast to this red-painted A4. So as Audi gets ready to release the next generation of the A4 here in the next year or two, I think this current generation still looks pretty good. Alright, so now let's talk about the engine details, and this being an S-Line 45 trim level, I'll tell you what that nets you on top of the 40. So you still get the same 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder mild hybrid setup with a 12-volt battery, but this one has more horsepower. 261 horsepower and 273 pounds-feet of torque. It's made it to a 7-speed double-clutch automatic transmission, and it's putting power down to all 4 wheels. Now, unlike the Mercedes C-Class and the BMW 3 Series, which come as rear-wheel drive driven cars as standard, all trim levels of the Audi A4 come equipped with the Audi Quattro all-wheel drive system. Now this is something to keep in mind in case you live in an area where all-wheel drive is important to you. Now as far as difference in horsepower, the 45 gets an additional 60 horsepower and 37 pounds-feet of torque over the base 40 trim level for an additional $2,100, which is an absolute bargain if you ask me. Now it's not only horsepower, the S-Line trim also gets a lowered suspension by 23 millimeters or 0.9 inches, and you also get larger front brake discs, 13.3 inches to be exact, with 4-piston brakes, bigger wheels, and tires. And all of this S-Line goodness gets you better acceleration numbers as well, 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, which I think is somewhat underrated, as I'll demonstrate during the driving portion of the review. And finally, some fuel economy. 24 in the city, 31 in the highway for a combined average of 27, and it's connected to a 15.3 gallon fuel tank. So with all that out of the way, let me take you around back so you can take a listen to what this thing sounds like. Alright, so now let's switch gears and talk some practicality by looking at the cargo space, essentially the trunk space, because people are going to buy these and drive them on a daily basis. So there's multiple ways of opening the trunk. There's a button on the interior, there's a button on the key, there's also comfort access right on top of the license plate, and then there's also the convenient kicking motion underneath the rear bumper. And once you open this thing, you'll be greeted with 12 cubic feet of space, which is a hair less than what you get in the BMW 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class, but no worries, because I think there's more than enough space for you to rack and stack and get clever and take this thing on a weekend getaway. And I also took it on a grocery run, and I had a bunch of stuff with me. It performed admirably. I did really appreciate the kicking motion, because as you walk up and you've got a bunch of things with you, that motion really helps with loading of your grocery bags. Now, if the trunk space wasn't enough for you, this thing does have the ability to fold down its rear seats. So it's a 40-20 40 rear folding configuration, and it really expands the trunk space enough for you to take this thing to Home Depot and fill it up with a bunch of home improvement goods and whatnot. Now, one thing I do wish it had is an electronic opening and closing trunk, because for this price point, I think it belongs in this car, and also it's a wonderful convenience feature so you don't get your finger oils on the exterior paint of the car. Now let's go ahead and close this thing up and go on to the interior, and I'll show you what it's like in there. All right, so now the interior of the Audi A4, starting off with the design and the quality topic. So the design is really nice. It's simple and modern. This is customary to what you see in a lot of Audis. Everything is nicely laid out, simple, easy to use. This one is kind of button-centric compared to some of the new Audis, which are more touch capable. But nonetheless, it's really nice design-wise at least. And as far as overall quality, the fit and finish is good. You can feel that this is a solid, well put together interior. Now, two things that I'm going to say need some improvement. As far as the design goes, the infotainment screen, it's just really popped up there, and I wish it was better integrated into the dash and the overall flow of the interior. I saw this in the Audi S5. It's the same thing here. I wish this was like the Audi S8, and that has it really nicely integrated into the dash and looks much better than this. Now, the second item, and really nitpicking here, is the start-stop button. I feel like it's too far away from the driver. At 5'11", I find myself having to stretch a little bit. Of course, the seat in my preferred position. I wish that this thing was a little closer to me down here by the shifter console. I would imagine somebody who's taller than I am, who sits further back, is gonna have to really stretch, not really stretch, but stretch to turn this car on and off. Now, as far as the sizing and the comfort of this interior, the sizing is great. As I said, I'm 5'11". You can see I have plenty of headroom up here. As far as the seat goes and its comfort level, I would say that this is more on the aggressive side of seats. It's still comfortable, but I think this goes along the theme of the S-Line trim level, because the S-Line trim gets upgraded seats that are a little bit more hugging. This one is a standard with heated seats, and of course it's standard heated seats on even the lowest base trim level of the A4. But this one, since it's equipped with the Prestige package, it does also get ventilated seats, which work very nicely. So overall, it's a pretty comfortable seat, but keep in mind that this is meant to be an S-Line trim and has a more aggressive seat than I would imagine that's in the base 40 trim level. Now let's look at technology, and looking at three things separately here. This car is equipped with a heads-up display, and the nice thing about it is there's a knob here, a physical knob that gives you minor adjustments to the heads-up display, and it even allows you to turn it off. You don't have to go and fiddle with the infotainment system. Even though there's a separate sub menu there, you can just use the physical knob, and that's wonderful because the second I got in here, I turned that thing off. I'm not a real big fan of heads-up display. Now, the gauges, there's a 12.3-inch screen in front of you, and that is available above the Premium Plus and Prestige trim levels, and it's a wonderful screen. It's 12.3 inches, nice, crisp. It's got a lot of information, and it has the ability to change the way it looks. There are 3 different settings, but the downside of that is I've got to go into the infotainment system to change the way they look. I wish they were just tied to some drive modes, or they had a physical button like the heads-up display to kind of toggle through the way the gauges work. Now, as far as the infotainment system, or the screen for the infotainment system, it's a 10.1-inch screen. It's very nice, crisp, clean, easy to read. I like how the widgets can be moved around on the home page, so you just put what you use most often in the top left-hand corner closest to you. Now, visually, I do think that MBUX and BMW iDrive are a little better looking than the Audi system, and it's purely based off of aesthetics and subjective to me. I just prefer the way those systems look over the Audi system. Otherwise, the functionality of this thing is up to par with those systems. And if you didn't want to mess with any of it, you can just run wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So let's wrap up the front area with some miscellaneous items. I always like to look at charging, and you've got 4 charging ports. So a USB Type A, a 12-volt outlet, a USB Type C, and a wireless charging pad here in the center console. A standard moonroof, which is standard across all trim levels of the A4. That was quite surprising. And a 3-zone climate control system. So even your back passengers have a zone back there to adjust your temperature. And speaking of the back seats, now let's move there and I'll give you a perspective of what's going on in those back seats. All right, so now the back seats of the Audi A4, and let's talk about the overall size. At 5'11", I am sitting behind myself, and you can see I have plenty of legroom here. My overall seating position is very comfortable. The seat cushioning is good back here as well, so your backseat passengers are gonna feel nice and tidy back here. As far as the shoulder room goes, I would say two individuals my size are going to fit just fine, same as 3 children, but 3 adults my size are probably going to have an issue just because of that shoulder room. I mean, for a short period of time you can probably make it work, but for a longer road trip and whatnot, it depends on your tolerance level of sitting really close to somebody. I'll put it to you that way. Now, as far as some of the other amenities go, as I said, you do have a third climate control zone here, which is controlled using this little LCD screen, and because this is a prestige level car, I have heated seats back here which get really nice and warm. And as always, charging in the back seats, equally as important as in the front. You have 2 USB type A and a 12 volt outlet, so no USB type C back here, quite interesting. And then the center armrest, pretty standard, little room here, not very deep, and 2 cup holders for each passenger. That's pretty much it on the interior. Now let's move to the driving portion of the review and see what this thing feels like behind the wheel. All right, so now the driving portion of the review. And as always, visibility is fantastic in here. Out the back, out the front, there's a wonderful 360-degree camera, optional in the Prestige package, which gives you great visibility all around the car. As far as the price goes, the base price is $39,000 and change. This car is $55,000, so it literally has every single option except for one. I believe it's the sports seats or the S seats or something like that. That costs about $500. So this is practically a fully loaded car. Now let's go ahead and go for a quick spin. Foot on the brake, start, stop. Fires up. It's not the loudest sounding exhaust. I'll demonstrate that here in a second, but there's a lot of traffic here in the mountain area that I drive in, so I'm going to try and get a nice clean run. So I'm not sure what's going to happen out there, but I'll try and give you the best feel of this thing. So I'm in dynamic mode and the transmission is in manual mode, and let's go for a quick drive, shall we? And let's pick this way or that way. Oh, traffic. Okay, let's go. So immediately, as far as speed goes, this thing is surprisingly fast. Oh, it's fun. It really moves. And what I mean by surprisingly fast is that it disguises the speed very nicely. Because the engine noise doesn't really come in, you don't really feel that sensation of speed. I feel like there's a little bit of improvement that could be made there because this is the S-Line trim. And then you look down and you are going a very, very surprisingly fast speed. So this is a pretty quick car, and I would say faster than that advertised 5.2 seconds 0 to 60 time. And I've caught up to traffic. This is the annoying part of driving in these mountains. Sometimes you get behind this traffic, but anyway, so this is a properly quick car. Let's quickly transition into some of the other topics and then we'll come back to speed. The transmission, the double clutch. One of the reasons why I like double clutch, even in non-super sport cars, like this isn't a true S car, like an S4 or an RS4, is the fact that the double clutch transmissions feel almost like a manual. No, I shouldn't say that. They feel closer to a manual transmission, as close as an automatic can get, of course. But I would take a double clutch transmission over a automatic any day of the week for that reason. And beyond that, this car's double clutch is fantastic. Whether it's upshifting or whether I'm upshifting, downshifting using the paddles, it is a wonderful double clutch. The one thing about it is it won't bang up against the red line. Once you're moving with momentum, it will automatically shift once it gets close to that red line. As that That's a demonstration of it. It just automatically shifted, and I've come to a red light, and the brakes are also pretty good. Adequate brakes for the speed of this car. I do wish it had a little bit more bite at the top, but let me get some straight line acceleration here. Yeah, it really moves surprisingly. It's not gonna blow your head off. That's probably saved for the S4, but it's got plenty of sportiness and plenty of go. The brakes are also pretty good. Nice firm brake inside, pushing inside the brake pedal here. A little bit more feel right at the top is what I want, but overall good brake pedal as well. I'm getting a pretty clean run. Yeah, it's really sporty. The seat needs a little bit more bolstering, but overall holds me in okay. More traffic. Let's transition again. So the steering and suspension. Steering needs some feel. The weight is good, and I'm in dynamic mode with the sportiest feeling weight, or the heaviest weight in the wheel, and it does provide a decent amount of resistance. But overall, I do feel like there's room for improvement here. Let's see if we can get around this person. Yep, plenty of speed to do that. Yeah, plenty of speed. Brakes are good. Man, this is a really sporty car. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna surprise a bunch of people. This is a very competent, compact sports sedan for sure. Now, let's talk about the suspension. And this is actually a very sporty feeling car. Whether you're driving up here or whether you're driving in the city, this is a sport compact luxury sedan. And I'm gonna go ahead and slow it down here because there's plenty of traffic in front of me, and there isn't gonna be an opportunity to pass. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about the suspension here. So up here in the mountains, it feels right at home. There's nothing short about this car handling itself up here. Just because it doesn't have an S badge on it, it's just the S line. It feels properly sporty and really nice feeling. It's kind of got that Miata feel where it's not blisteringly fast, and the suspension is compliant enough where you can have plenty of fun in this driving environment. Now, I'm going to transition that into the comfort mode, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in comfort mode and bleed that into daily driving and some miscellaneous things I found when I was driving this around. So folks buying this car are gonna be surprised when they get in and they put it in comfort mode and they're expecting, oh, I'm buying a luxury German automobile and I'm expecting to really coast along and not really feel any of the road. And you're gonna be disappointed because this car actually has a very sporty suspension even in comfort mode. And what that means is when you're driving over bumps here, like on a regular road I am now, you definitely feel it. It comes through the road. It's not going to soak up everything, and it delivers that sporty feel. So if you're someone who's looking for a sports sedan, which what these cars were really made for, the 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class, well, maybe before, but that's what this is going to deliver. Is it uncomfortable? No, it is not uncomfortable. The seat does a decent job of giving you a comfortable ride, but you are going to get a sporty drive in this S-Line with the sport suspension. Now, a couple other things. The dynamic cruise control that this car has, it works kind of funny, or maybe it needs a little bit of improvement. I'm going to pull over here and tell you about this one really quickly before we end the video. So I was using it on the highway in stop and go traffic, and I don't know if it's because of where the sensors are. It seems like when somebody is merging into your lane, it kind of gets confused and it brakes really, really late, and you kind of get like this feeling of a sudden burst of brake. So it may need some improvement there. Otherwise, it performs flawlessly. Stop and go. All you got to do is steer. You set the speed and then the distance you want it to keep from the other cars, and it works very, very nicely. So if you're thinking about getting it, get it. Just keep in mind with the lane changing and stuff, it gets a little confused and it's a little slow to adapt. Otherwise, I mean, like I said, this is a sporty sedan more than it is a comfortable luxury car. I feel like maybe if you were to get the 40 trim level without the sport suspension, it'll probably be more oriented for comfort, but you can absolutely still drive this on a daily basis, and it's suitable for anybody who wants a sports sedan. This is a good balance between sportiness and comfort, and yeah, I really like this thing. For the price, I don't know, I haven't driven a M340i or the newer C-Class, the C43 that'll eventually come out, but I think this car on its own, for $55,000, I think it provides a great driving experience for somebody who wants to be in this segment, this compact sport luxury, non-super sport like M3, RS4, RS5 segment. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, please make sure you leave me a comment down below. Thank you to Audi for giving me this car and letting me have a go in it. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.